Welcome, everyone, to Third Eye Nectar Podcast, Season 2, with my dear sister, Kanika. We're so excited to be live and recording in the new nectar drops that we have coming for y'all. And it's been a long time coming, and we've also been cocooning and learning and metabolizing through our own journeys. And so excited to share with you all in these next episodes. And we have Kanika, anything that you'd like to start us off with before we go into our topic for today?
I second everything that Wendy said. We're actually very excited to be back for, let's say, season 2 of the Third Eye Nectar podcast. My dog is also agreeing to that. Uh, but yes, we're flowing, we're growing, we are, like Wendy said, we've been metabolizing quite a lot, shedding quite a bit. And we're ready to bring in even more refined nectar drops your way. So yeah, that's what I have to say before Wendy can introduce what exactly we're talking about and the purpose of the topic.
All right. Well, what we have going on today is this topic of thresholds and regeneration. Kanika and I have been hosting our psychedelic integration circles on the last Sundays of the month, and we are introducing this new wave of bringing in a topic into discussion. So, thresholds and regeneration is today, and we will open that up to our community to help to come join with us in our circle that you are all invited to on April 26th at 9 a.m. Pacific time. And there'll be more details in our subnotes. Okay. So, Kanika, would love to just start us off with this topic of thresholds and regeneration. I know that's something that you were bringing forward from our last discussion, and I will hand the mic over to you to start us off.
Yes, thank you for bringing in our integration circle into the conversation. Yeah, part of what we're also bringing into season 2, the flavor, is that Wendy and I, as she said, we're hosting these beautiful circles, group integration circles, um, for psychedelic integration, but honestly, it's for anybody who's integrating any kind of big process, going through any big change. If you're going through grief and you want a place where we can hold you, you're always welcome. If you're going through experiences where you've had some kind of unexplainable or unprocessable phenomena that happened to you, when you were in meditation, or when you were in a walk, or when you were swimming in a lake, like anything that led you into the other side or see beyond the veil, and you want to integrate it and you want a community to hold it, that's also a place for you to come and join us. And Wendy and I would be very happy to see you every last Sunday of every month at 9 a.m. Pacific time, and the time zones. We'll put it in the description box. Yeah. And so the idea is for every month, we will be holding the container with a certain theme. And so Wendy held the last container with the theme of death and rebirth. And so the April container, we're moving into thresholds and regeneration. And when I kind of came up with this topic or a theme that was coming into my field, I realized it's the similar flavor as what Wendy brought into the conversation last month, death and rebirth. And death, I'm just seeing it as thresholds, and rebirth, I'm just seeing it as regeneration. It's the same thing, but I'm just looking at it from a different lens. I didn't realize it until after I came up with the topic that I'm actually looking at death and rebirth from a different lens. Um, so yeah, we don't want to drag this into a big conversation, so I'm going to try to keep it very short. So thresholds, the idea of thresholds, um, I think is more digestible for us and our everyday consciousness than death. You know, death is something that has got its own reputation for so many different ways. But when we say thresholds, it's a little bit more mysterious. It's a little bit more digestible, right? And that's what it is. It's a mystery. It's a door. It's a portal. And one
Mhm.
of the goddesses that people associate with the threshold is the Hecate, and she's the goddess of thresholds, or she's the goddess of the crossroads, where you're standing at the fork of a road. You've come to the end of the road, and now that is branching into two different directions, and you're there at the moment of decision. That's where your road ends. That's where you're beginning to die, and you are ready to move into the next stage. And the next stage can go either way, either of those forks. And that's where the goddess Hecate, she meets you to see if you're going to decide and move. And she's watching you to see which way you are going to take, you know.
Mm. Mhm.
And so she's waiting. And the thing is, people consider Hecate as a very powerful dark goddess, in the way that people think that she takes you into the underworld, and obviously death and thresholds and liminals and in between is considered the underworld. But Hecate also is someone who watches for people who are brave. Like, she is also someone who I would say evaluates the courage and valor in a particular person, because it takes courage to make a choice. Some people come to the threshold, come to the fork, and they're just there standing for years, months, days, or even
Mhm.
decades until they die. They don't move. They don't want to make a choice because it's so scary. And so they don't even cross the threshold. They don't even go through the process of death. And so Hecate is there to help people who show great courage in choosing. It doesn't matter if it's right or wrong. You just have to choose, make a choice, move forward, go take the road, if it's right or left, and you just move. You keep moving, and then you will come to another threshold or the depth of that particular fork, and you will find Hecate there again to kind of watch over you and guide you, saying like, hey, take the next step. Come on, step into the unknown, step into the threshold. Let's go. Because that's what I think evolution is all about. It's not about like getting to a particular destination, like, oh, I want to go back to source. We are ascending. We're all going into 5D or 12D or whatever. Evolution is all about, it's a fractal. Think about it, right? Fractal is branching from one step to the next step to the next step. And in that branching, it makes this beautiful pattern when you look at it overall. And that's what it is. That's what we are all doing every single day, is moving through thresholds, moving through liminals, moving through the in-between spaces. Every time we try to come to a point where we have to make a decision, that's a threshold. That's the death of an old idea, and that's the point where you have the potential to open yourself up to giving birth to something new. And that's where the rebirth comes in, right? And the rebirth, the way I'm looking at it, is regeneration. So as long as you step into the threshold and choose a direction, you are on your path to regeneration. Because the moment you stop making choices, we become stagnant and we're not allowing ourselves the capacity to regenerate, or we're not allowing ourselves the capacity to grow and expand, right? So we have threshold, we have the portal, we have the door open. Hecate is standing there. She's waiting to see if we're going to step in. And we step in, and immediately there is the regeneration, right? Like the moment you step into the portal and there's a new world, you're already in something new. But I want to bring in our attention to this point of the act of stepping in itself, right? So now we have the threshold, we have this new world happening here. But what's going on in between? The moment we make the choice and the moment we take the first step, now that has a time and space period, okay? Um, it's a whole different dimension. And what happens in that particular space is the void,
Mm.
because you're stepping in, you're moving forward. It's that little bit of a forward push. You have not landed yet into the other world, and you have not left yet the previous world. You have one leg suspended. And that particular area where we are suspended, that is the void. We have not yet fully stepped into the regeneration, and we have not yet fully come out of our old world that we want to leave. And this is the void that also, I could call it the cosmic womb. In the Hindu cosmovision, we also call it the Hiranya Garbha, which is the golden womb of the mother, right? And this can be a very scary place for a lot of us. Um, and even though it might look like, okay, I'm just taking one step and putting it in and going into the other side of the world, or exploring a new world, this particular void space in between the threshold and the regeneration, or in between the birth and the rebirth, can be very scary. And it can take many days, many hours, maybe, or many minutes, or many decades, or many years, depending on the type of initiation that we're having, depending on the type of um, depending on the type of portal that's inviting us to cross over, right? Depending on the mystery, depending on the depth of the mystery, depending on where we're coming from and where we're going. But this void place that we get into in between death and rebirth is a very, very important, a very beautiful place, because that is where the real um, kind of seeds of evolution get planted. And what do I mean by seeds of evolution? Um, I personally think at this particular moment in time that the seeds of evolution is actually illumination or understanding, or the dawning of understanding.
Mm.
So when we move from the portal into the other world, we need a new way of looking at things, or the new way of looking at things begins to form in our psyche, in our unconsciousness, that is actually going to propel us from death to rebirth, or it will help us pass through the threshold, you know? And so when I say understanding or illumination, what I mean is that we look at things in a renewed way, or we find innovative solutions to old problems that we're leaving behind. And that innovative solution is going to carry forward into the new world that we're moving in. And so I just want to bring attention to the actual threshold. When we come to a point where we feel like we've gotten into an impasse, Hecate is there watching us to see if we're going to make a choice to move either in any direction, honestly. And she will be our threshold guardian. She will be holding us in the void and helping us with the dawning of understanding. Um, and as we are stepping into the new world, we're also carrying that understanding forward as the seed into into the new world, into the new birth, or into the new regenerative cycle. And that can happen for us in cycles, right? It's always happening. So we were born as children and we will die as really old people. Um, and we're also going through metaphorical deaths every single day. And we go through the same process. We come to a threshold. We have to make a choice. We meet these dark goddesses who are guarding the gates. And we get an understanding. We get aha moments. We are, given the grace and the gift of these higher powers. And we have more clarity and we step in and we keep walking and we come to a threshold and we need more aha. That's kind of like the process that keeps happening, and we saw that happen in the year of the snake last year, where we had to shed skin, grow a little bit, shed some more, grow a little bit. And it's the same process that we're looking at in multiple different lens. And it's the same process that each and every single one of our cells go through every single moment of our day. It takes the information that we're feeding it, and it sees like, okay, in order to accommodate this information, I have to die, because the new cell that will be regenerated has to include this information in its DNA. So I'm going to die so that this new cell with new information is going to be born. And so this organism called Kanika or Wendy can operate in a much higher capacity. And then that particular cell again takes in real-time information, and it passes through the threshold and it dies and it gives birth to a new cell that is much more evolved, you can say, right? So we're going through that every day in our body. We're going through that every day in our relationships. And we're going through that every day as we evolve. And, it has no end. It's just going to continue in its cycle. And as it continues, this path of branching out, taking a choice, creating a new world, coming to an end point, branching out again. We're creating this beautiful symphony, this fractal. That's probably the view that maybe God is having of our infinite process of death and rebirth, or threshold and regeneration. Um, so yeah, three things to keep in mind before we gather together in the integration circle container at the end of the month. Threshold points. Are we ready to leave them and meet the guardian or not? And what is our dawning of understanding, or what does our time in the void look like? What kind of wisdom have we gathered? What kind of clarity have we gathered that we can take into the next regenerative circle? And then as we move into the new world, or the new birth, or the new regenerated body, mind, and spirit, how are we going to take the information from the void, and how are we going to help in our own personal evolution, which will then help the collective evolution as well. So that's what I've got.
Hmm. So beautiful, Kanika. Thank you so much for sharing this teaching, this wisdom, opening up this place of theme and what we're bringing into our integration circles. And there's so much here, and I just wanted to add and name a couple of different words that are sticking with me. Like threshold, I also think of this word of the liminal space, right? Also speaking to the in-between states. The Latin word of like liminal is limen, and it is doorway. It
Mm,
is portal. So I love that you named that. And also this word of decision, you used choice, but
mm,
even in making decisions, it's to cut off. And from what I'm hearing and what you're sharing is we don't know what decision it is that we make until we make it.
yes.
like right or wrong, whatever. We won't know until we actually make that choice.
Mm-hmm.
And so the crossroads of it. And this other piece of when I think of psychedelics or these transpersonal experiences, sacred plant medicines, a lot that we work with, is that, you know, maybe maybe the medicine is not creating these liminal spaces, but more so just revealing what's already here,
Mm-hmm.
what's already in our presence. It already exists.
Mm-hmm.
And I think why we're wanting to do these things, have these conversations or bring people in through their integration process is that within indigenous practice or rituals is that something that gets missed is this communal aspect
Mm-hmm.
of yes, you make the choice, you make the decision, you go through the threshold, you go into this place of rebirth, but there is something about the witnessing and coming back and sharing what you've learned or sharing the experience of how challenging it was.
Yeah.
And there's a quote by Melodoma Some and talks about that grief is the most healing of emotions and it requires a village to hold it.
Mm, mm,
And somewhere around that. I'm paraphrasing.
yeah.
And I think that's our intention here.
Yeah.
Our integration circles is really, the process of these experiences and to build community around these experiences so we can witness you, and so that we can also learn from each other and be held by one another. So I absolutely am looking forward to our circle on April 26th. I'm looking forward to further conversation on what thresholds and regeneration has been showing up for everyone. And we look forward to having you again in our psychedelic integration circle. Stay tuned for our newsletters, or you can subscribe to the links above or below. And
Wherever YouTube has their
wherever,
link.
yeah, wherever it's on YouTube, we'll have the info there. And we
Yes.
look forward to connecting with you all soon.
Yes, we look forward to connecting with you. And I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge my dear friend Wendy and appreciate her for tuning in to the topic of death and rebirth last month, because of that, it inspired me to open up to this topic. And so, Wendy, I'm always inspired by you, and I so appreciate your presence and your love and your sense of community and belonging that you've provided for me and you continue to provide for everybody else. And I'm so honored to share this space with you.
Thank you, sis. Yes, we'll keep the threads going. We will keep them going.
All right, everybody, thank you for tuning into season 2, and we will see you all in the next video whenever that comes out.
Bye.
Bye bye.